Hi everyone, so today we're going to learn about work 208, which looks like this in the notebook, and it's called Jahangir Preferring a Sufi Sheikh to Kings. And I very much apologize that there is a typo there. I put a little text box here that it should be Sufi. So Jahangir Preferring a Sufi Sheikh to Kings. This right here, Bachitra, is the name of the artist. It was made around 1620, and you can see it's watercolor gold and ink on paper, and we have some vocabulary terms here. So here is that work. So you can see we have a really decorative floral border all around, and we have some figures here. So let's go to the notebook and talk about the annotations and fill those in. And then I'll give you some more information, and you can also fill in your own annotations. So it says fill in the blanks on the annotations, draw arrows to specific parts of the image, and then add at least 3 of your own annotations. So this is from, I'll tell you first of all, this is from an empire called the Mughals who ruled India. The Mughals were a Muslim empire, and we know that most people in India were Hindu. But the Mughals were conquerors, so they came in from the outside and they conquered India and set up a new empire called the Mughals. The Mughals were known overall for being pretty tolerant of other religions and even interested in other religions, because for the most part they realized that they were a Muslim minority ruling over a Hindu majority. So this is a type of painting that was popular in the Mughal Empire called a miniature, because it's just a small painting that would appear in a book. And the term for that type of book that held these miniature paintings is this term right here, maraca. And I'll show you that when we go back to the PowerPoint in a minute, what that looks like. So let's start to talk about the story here and what we actually see in this painting. And we can fill in this first box here. So according to the story, Jahangir's father, Akbar, who was a famous Muslim ruler, he didn't have an heir. And so he had gone to a Sufi mystic, so Sufi, S-U-F-I, to pray for an heir. Jahangir is shown here presenting an elderly Sufi sheikh with a sumptuous book as a gift, indicating that perhaps he values spiritual guidance over temporal pleasures. So Jahangir is handing this Sufi sheikh a book as a gift, showing that of these people who we're going to talk about, who are pictured here, he's most concerned with spiritual matters and concerned with the sheikh. All right, there's other people here, which I'll go through. The artist is actually down here. And so the artist is shown wearing an understated yellow jama, which is a robe, tied on his left, indicating that he is a Hindu in service at the Mughal court. A reminder that artists who created Islamic art were not always Muslim. So he is in service at the Mughal court. And then his name is on top of the footstool, which is right here. So it says on top of the footstool, the artist signed his name, indicating the painter's humble status, since it was used by the emperor to step on in order to reach his throne. Beneath Jahangir's seat, crouching putti or cherubs, write in Persian. So here they are down here, and I'll show you that in bigger in just a minute. May the span of your reign be 1,000 years at the base of an hourglass. So his pedestal that he's sitting on is actually an hourglass, kind of showing like that he's going to reign forever. So I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint, add your own annotations around here, and be sure to connect with arrows using this tool right here to draw to different parts of the image. Okay, so here's the overall picture again. It has a very decorative floral outline. It also has designs, like especially on the carpet back here, that could be described as arabesque. So it's showing that it has influences from different cultures. So like the arabesque designs we learned about with Muslim art. It has these little cherubs here that are borrowed from Christian art. Here you can see what we were talking about, that Jahangir is seated on this pedestal, which is an hourglass. And it's hard to see, but the little cherubs are writing, "May you reign 1,000 years." Here's the artist again, and you can see he's holding up one of his portraits. The artist was known, especially for his portrait work, this particular artist, and his name is on the footstool right here. You also get a better view here of Jahangir. Around Jahangir's head, there are almost like flames coming out, flames of gold, and then there's this big round disc, probably representing the sun. But there's also this crescent shape, probably representing the moon. And one of the titles that Jahangir was given when he ascended to the throne was Light of the Faith. And so this probably is a reference to that he is like carrying forth the tradition of the Muslim religion in India. Then we see this Sufi sheikh right here, and we can see that he's an older man. Look at the contrast between his clothing, which is very simple and very humble, probably like almost looks like burlap or something, very cheap. And then compared to Jahangir, who has a beautiful robe on and lots of jewelry, and he's giving him this book to show that he really cares about spiritual matters. The sheikh is also honoring him because if you look closely in his hands, he is holding out a cloth to take this book. Like he's not even going to touch Jahangir's hand to show respect. Here's a map of the Mughal Empire. So again, the Mughal Empire started in the 1500s, but went through the 1700s with various rulers. Here's a picture of a Mughal book of miniature paintings, which again is called a maraca, which is on the vocabulary. So this is the type of painting that would be in this book. So they're pretty small. And here's a close-up of these people so we can see what's going on here a little bit better. You can see that both Jahangir and this Sufi sheikh they look happy and pleased with this interaction. And let's talk about these other people down here. So this guy right here is an Ottoman, like from the Ottoman Empire. And he's an Ottoman sultan probably. And so this is showing that they had contact with the Ottomans, but the fact also that he is kind of bowing down to Jahangir shows that the Mughals viewed themselves as superior over the Ottomans. To a viewer at the time period, they would recognize this guy as Ottoman because of his turban, and that's different than you can see what Jahangir is wearing, so it'd be obvious that he's like a foreigner. But we do notice that he has his hands together as a sign of respect. And then we mentioned down here is the artist, and he's holding one of his miniature portraits. From his headgear and his outfit, again, people would recognize that he's a Hindu serving these Muslim rulers of India. And then who's this guy? Because he looks very different. So this is representing King James I of England. And so he is wearing European-style dress. He has his arm out resting on his sword. So can you see that the handle of his sword is right here? And the sword would be like behind him. This was a really popular stance or position for European portraits at the time. And so Jahangir and the artist or whoever organized this painting had to have had knowledge and been exposed to images from Europe at the time. So it definitely shows like cross-cultural influences here. Now notice what is James doing? He's not looking at Jahangir. He's not paying respect to him. So it's kind of giving the impression that from the Mughal perspective that the Europeans are kind of like rude and, don't have good manners, but he's not showing any kind of tribute to the ruler here. But now that you know that and you know who these people are, you can see how it's supposed to be kind of like an allegory or a metaphor for who Jahangir is, that he's this person that's very concerned with spiritual matters and positive things like that, rather than like just being rich or just having power. Because like he could be associating with these other rulers right here, and he's really not paying them any attention. The other thing is that Jahangir is bigger than the other people, so it's not immediately obvious, but when you look at it, you can see he's pretty significantly bigger, especially than these people back down here. So there's a little bit of hierarchical scale going on. And the artist has painted himself as pretty small in comparison, kind of adopting a really humble position. And once again, down here, you can see the angels, the cherubs, and that hourglass signifying Jahangir's long rule.